Exclusive dance in the desert reserved for billionaires and eco-warriors is underway. As we keep saying, COP28 is taking place in Dubai this year, with world leaders jetting in to urge everyone to tackle climate change.
And our very own King Charles, a lifelong eco-activist, kicked things off earlier, warning that the world remains dreadfully far off track in its key climate targets.
As I've tried to say on many occasions, unless we rapidly repair and restore nature's unique economy based on harmony and balance, which is our ultimate sustainer, our own economy and survivability will be imperiled.
Well, joining us now is Grahame from Just Stop Oil, the protest group that is, in fact, staying away from COP28. I mean, one assumes that things like COP28 are somewhat music to your ears in terms of the world getting together to discuss a cause that you really care passionately about. But are you pretty annoyed at where it's being hosted and to learn that the guy in Dubai, essentially gifted the duties of comparing the whole thing, is the CEO of an oil company, using it as an opportunity to flog the black stuff?
Yeah, thank you for having me on the programme. I would say the first thing you need to remember, of course, is that COP28 is the 28th COP. And we are still in a climate emergency. It's still getting worse. So COP28 is going to fail. It will fail. It's just blah, blah, blah. And I agree with you about virtual signalling. I think they are virtue signalling. The UAE put into the loss and damage fund $100 million. And there was a massive cheer from everyone. That's what they pay for a football player. You know, they own City. You've got City up there. They own the City Football Club, Manchester City Football Club. I think that's what they paid for the whole of the team, for the whole of the club. So it's completely virtue signalling. But the thing to know, of course, is they know that we're in a climate crisis. They know, but they don't want to act. And the whole thing's being driven by the oil industry, I'm afraid. I used to work for the oil industry. I was a principal scientist at Shell, PhD in engineering. I know how the oil industry works.
Well, Grahame, I think it's probably fair to say it wouldn't often be the case that you come onto our show and we're all on the same side here. I mean, I think the British public, I think the public around the world, they look these COP events. I mean, frankly, they're grotesque. You know, a bunch of the great and the good from all over the world descending on a place like Dubai, last year Egypt, year before Scotland, in kind of hundreds of private jets. I think more than 1,000 turned up to the Egypt COP27. It'll be the same this time round. And we just see this as a mass of virtue signalling hypocrisy. How can even the king or the prime minister of this country or the foreign secretary, all of whom arrived there in separate private jets, say we are committed to helping to save this world because things like jets pollute the world? How can they say this? How can they expect us not to view this as a massive festival of hypocrisy?
I completely agree. There were 636 oil delegates at COP27. There were many hundreds of oil delegates in COP26, and now they're holding it in an oil state that whose primary drivers. I can say that the former head of strategy to Shell said that the primary drivers of the oil industry are survival and profit. And now it's about last man standing. So that's what's really driving this, survival and profit.
I mean, Grahame, do you welcome some of the announcements that Rishi Sunak has made today? We ducked into his speech a bit earlier. He was talking about an £11 million investment in the world's biggest wind farm at Dogger Bank. Lots of foreign direct investment coming from countries such as South Korea. Is that enough, frankly, from the UK? And is it actually going to move the needle at all when one thing we have learnt is China haven't turned up to this summit?
Everybody has to act. Everyone has to act here. You can't exclude anyone. Our emissions per capita are about the same as China's emissions per capita. They have 30 times the population and they have 30 times the emissions. We all have to make changes. And let's not forget that Sunak said they want to be world leaders. They want to lead on this. But actually, what the Environment Secretary said only a few days before that was that we can only go as fast as everyone else. So you're seeing the extraordinary hypocrisy from this government on this issue. Let's not forget that our government knows how serious this is. They know how serious it is, and yet they are still increasing the oil and gas extraction in the North Sea. And they are working with governments who are doing exactly the same around the world. The UAE is a very good example of that. We know that burning oil and gas puts pollution into the atmosphere, it increases the temperature, and that this results in people dying for all sorts of reasons: flooding, extreme heats, loss of agricultural lands, conflicts, wars. That results in people dying. So our government is actively bringing about the deaths of vast numbers of people. And Just Stop Oil, we think that's genocide. That is genocide.
Tell you what, Grahame, it's actually a genuine pleasure for once in our lives to be on the same side as Just Stop Oil. And thank you very much for your time. Good to talk to you.